We are officially 63 days until November 5th, the election day. We're also 1 week until this big debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, two people who've actually never met, and they will meet on the biggest stage of all. We also will see early voting begin as early as 2 weeks from now, with those early mail-in ballots going out this Friday. This is it. When they talk about the general election, this is why they talk about it starting now after Labor Day, because of all these things from debates to voting itself. Now, Kamala Harris is hitting the trail. She's in multiple states this week, New Hampshire tomorrow, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on Thursday. And she was in PA just yesterday, which has so many key delegates, key to the blue wall. That was her Labor Day speech. This was her first appearance with President Biden since the DNC before union members.
Wall Street did not build America.
When union wages go up, everybody's wages go up.
The middle class built America, and unions built the middle class.
It is good to be in the House of Labor.
Are you ready to fight?
We are the underdog in this race.
I promise you, if you elect Kamala Harris as president, it'll be the best decision you will have ever made.
We like hard work. Hard work is good work.
The hard work, a reference not only to crediting the labor of so many Americans in the history of the labor struggle and union organizing, but she also was, of course, talking about the hard work left in these 9 weeks home stretch of the general election. So she is doing, as she says, all of that hard work, and it's a contrast to Donald Trump, who is not doing any in-person rallies all this week. And Labor Day, which, as I mentioned, is this traditional start to the campaigns, he didn't hold any public events at all yesterday. So the Harris campaign is going after Trump on this point, and they used his own app, his platform Truth Social, to compare their schedules, 3 states versus none, noting Trump was, as you see there, golfing, ? And there are reports that Trump has been, quote, phoning it in, running a low-energy, undisciplined campaign. That's from his own former Trump White House staffer who spoke to the Washington Post. It's a downright lackadaisical, laid-back, or, yes, even low-energy approach to campaigning at a time where everything matters. It's also striking because Donald Trump is, if he's good at anything, he's been effective at driving message and PR, TV and attention. That's something he's known for. But if you don't go out and meet with people and do the campaign activities, you're obviously reducing the amount of stuff that would be covered in PR and TV. Now, Harris also went on TV and did her first big interview since becoming the nominee. It was a joint interview with Tim Walz, and she hammered Trump.
We have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and in an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it.
Hitting there on some policy items, and everything we've just discussed is about campaigning and the time and the places that you prioritize. Then there's the money. We are getting another picture because Harris is such a new candidate. We only have weeks as opposed to the many years of Trump's records to see how she's doing, and the money continues to roll in. Harris's team is now on pace to be able to double Trump's spending on air in these next and final 2 months of the campaign. That's a big deal. The Harris campaign also projecting confidence and trying to make up for a place where some Democratic campaigns have struggled, those so-called down ballot or grassroots races. Think about hauling in $25 million and then distributing it. That's something we see sometimes the DNC do in the years into a presidency. But she is in a strong enough position to start handing out money now. And that goes to, as I mentioned, down ballot congressional races and some local races. They are past $500 million total in these first 6 weeks. Down ballot Republicans, meanwhile, are, according to Politico reporting, quote, panicking over the huge money gap. A Republican saying unless something changes drastically in the next 6 weeks, we will lose winnable seats. Let me repeat. That quote is from a Republican trying to sound the alarm. We will lose what they view as, quote, winnable Republican seats. This is what the general election is starting out like, and it is a measure of a drastically shifted landscape. That does not mean it tells you where things will end. If you watch this program, we try to always tell you our sources and the evidence, and we don't have the evidence yet or the larger trends to have any clear idea of how this close race will end. If you hear people saying, oh, now it's obvious what's going to happen because they looked at a rally or a poll, that's fine. People can conjure and predict whatever they want, but I can tell you it looks like a very close race. The evidence we do have, though, does show an improvement in the Democratic position, in the nominee, Harris now instead of Biden, and how Democrats are benefiting from her at the top of the ticket instead of Biden. Now, we know the anxiety used to run quite high. Everyone from Nancy Pelosi, quite publicly, Chuck Schumer more privately, Hakeem Jeffries very privately, were talking up the idea of getting a change, of getting Biden to drop out, which had never happened before. But one of the people who actually kicked off that conversation, you might remember, back in the news tonight, is George Clooney. Not just because he is an actor or a celebrity or talented or famous. He actually was someone who had a very special role in the Obama kind of coalition as not only a donor, but a fundraiser and a kind of a national figure. And he did open up a larger conversation about this when he urged Biden to step down. You might recall the New York Times handed the mic to Clooney and he penned an op-ed talking about a theme you might have heard recently at the DNC. He both loved Joe Biden and wanted a new nominee. That was where he spoke. You can debate whether these rich celebrities and other cultural figures have too much or too little influence, but it did make a difference. Historians will go back to that July op-ed, just like they'll go back to Ezra Klein's piece and some of the other early push. So it was big news when in a movie promotion appearance, Clooney just for the first time broke his silence over the weekend with his first reaction now touting Joe Biden since he exited.
The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington. And that's true. And so anybody, all the machinations that got us there, that's all, none of that's going to be remembered. And it shouldn't be. What should be remembered is the selfless act of someone who, you know, it's very hard to let go of power. You know, we know that. We've seen it, you know, all around the world. And for someone to say, I think there's a better way forward, that's all the credit goes to him.
All the credit to Biden, says Clooney. And he, like Ezra Klein, who wrote about this in the New York Times, really did open up space. There's so much criticism of what happens, for example, on the right. But in Democratic circles, there was an absence of public and real reckoning with some of the issues that led to the late exit of Joe Biden and now Kamala Harris. And the timing seems so far to be working out for the Democrats. So it's really striking tonight to just hear Clooney break his silence. He had kept himself sort of out of view. He made it all about Biden, not himself. And he credits Biden for that selfless act of giving up power. But it's also interesting because we are just 6 weeks out of this thing, or, you know, 9 or 10 out from that first public push of people like Clooney, I mentioned Klein, Nancy Pelosi, and what a world of difference it's made. So that is how we got here. The race has shifted, and now we're seeing signs of the electoral map shifting. I told you again, we follow the evidence. Quote, just over a month ago, PBS notes in this account, Trump allies were suggesting Democratic-leaning states like Minnesota, Virginia, even New Jersey could be in play. Quote, neither side believes that's still the case here on this past Labor Day weekend. PBS is crunching the numbers and quoting Republicans. And again, we're all familiar with spin in campaigns, but it's true that even Trump defenders, MAGA allies, are no longer claiming that this kind of thing is going to be some sort of Trump romp. Now, here's Harris telling supporters, though, not to get too overconfident.
And we know this is going to be a tight race to the very end. It's going to be a tight race to the very end. So let's not pay too much attention to those polls. Because as unions and labor knows best, we know what it's like to be the underdog. And we are the underdog in this race. And we have some hard work then ahead of us.
Those themes again there, hard work and still the underdog. But here's what's so interesting about political communication. You didn't hear Joe Biden emphasizing 2 months ago that he was the underdog, even though he was behind. And the reason is a little bit of a paradox. there were signs that he was far enough behind that you didn't even want to bring up it being a tough or close race. There are now signs that Kamala Harris might have pulled even or possibly ahead, including building leads in states that won't decide this race, so you get that national polling lead that I've told you before doesn't resolve the Electoral College. And she's the one going out of her way to tell a very excited, highly donating, highly active set of base voters and people who show up to those rallies and listen to them, hey, she still wants to be the underdog. The only way to be the top dog is to have everyone turn out over these next 60-plus days.